All right, everybody. As I said earlier, I am joined by the wonderful Sean Leary. Hey, Sean.
What's up, Lindsay? It's good to see you. It's been a minute.
It's been a minute. So, a little background on Sean and I. Sean and I worked in the television industry for quite a few years. It was
Yeah,
like 2 to 3. And Sean became, I would say, we quickly became friends
yeah.
in that process.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Yeah. And we were in that industry that's very stressful. We bond over that. That was an
Yeah,
interesting time. How do you
yeah.
like now being where you are like reflect back on that time? Like
Feels like feels like a lifetime ago. Which also, first of all, thank you for having me again, Lindsay. Yeah, we go way back. Yeah, it feels like a completely different lifetime because now I'm full disclosure. I'm in recovery. I recently celebrated 2.5 years sober. Knock on wood, I'm gonna have 3 years on April 18th, which is awesome. So I love being in recovery. I love helping other sober people. That's actually my day job now. I work at GBAC, Greater Boston Addiction Centers, and they're freaking awesome, and they help a lot of people. So it's great that that's my job now. I get to help people in recovery, and then when I'm not doing that, I'm making music, and it's a beautiful thing. I have very little to complain about these days, but looking back on when I was in that industry, in the TV industry, yeah, it was very stressful, and I enjoyed it for a while, and then I think at a certain point it just stopped being what I wanted to do, and then it played into my addiction as well, where I was like drinking heavily, and it kind of like escalated from there. So once I got sober and the dust settled, I was like, I think I just want to like step away from this industry. So yeah.
so I do want to say to everybody, if there's one thing I was saying this to you earlier, Sean, like you manifested the life that you're living right now. Obviously, I knew you before you went into recovery, but you have always been so passionate about music, been passionate about like helping people as well. Like that's a big characteristic I knew of you, and when we first met, and so you get to know these people you work with. You spend more time with people at work than sometimes your family.
Yeah.
So you get to know each other very well, and like I'm sure you kind of get the gist of my personality in this podcast is kind of like, as you mentioned, going through things and like getting climbing over a hurdle in your life that really kind of like shakes you to your core, changes like who you are. um, we don't plan for these things to happen in life. You would never think 10 years ago that you would be where you are, good or bad. um, I just want to applaud you for over 2 years, or just about 2 years, two,
Two
three
and two and a
years,
half. Yeah, yeah.
2.5 years. I can remember when you first told me that you were going to go into recovery. And I can remember just because I don't know, I'm just going to be completely frank. I don't, that I know too many people that are going through recovery. So when you told me that, and also I think just being young, like we were around a young group of people,
Mm-hmm.
I, which is the culture of drinking. And then until you told me that you were going through recovery is when I actually really thought about it. And I, I was like, wow, yeah, like really? Like I was surprised. You just never really know what people are going through. Like, how was the process of first one realizing yourself that something needed to change? And then what was your mindset with telling everybody? Because also during that time, keep in mind the pandemic was starting,
Yeah.
um, right? It was around that time,
Yep.
it was 2020.
Yeah.
So like shit was crazy, like all around. Like, and people, I think we're just like on high alert. Tell me about it. Tell me about when you knew it was time to change and your mindset going with telling people, you friends, family, coworkers.
Yeah. Well, first of all, thank you for all the kind words. And going off of what you just said, where you didn't really see it. Like you were like, really? You have a problem? That was a lot of people's reactions to me saying it. I remember many friends, many drinking buddies were kind of like, you're not an alcoholic. Like my friend does XYZ and like you're not as bad as him and like playing the comparison game. But the simple fact is I there was my social drinking, and then there was the extracurricular, like where I started to get in trouble, especially towards the end of my drinking, was drinking alone in my room, like after going out and partying, and then like going too far with it, and then you build up a tolerance. I mean, towards the end, it got pretty dark in terms of like drinking things out the bottle. And then like unfortunately, I mean fortunately and unfortunately, a big piece of my story is like withdrawal and like alcohol poisoning and like being afraid for my life, thinking I'm gonna die in my sleep. Like, not to be too dramatic, but that was the reality. But like people didn't know that shit. Like I kept it, we a lot of us addicts and alcoholics, we have it down to a science, like of hiding bottles and hiding how much we're drinking. And it's like, oh, I wake up in the morning, I got a little bit of the shakes, like gotta drink something out the bottle to just be like baseline okay, to like be able to come into work, and then just chug water. And then like I was very strategic. You have it down to a science. Like I'm saying, it's like, oh, I have a 30-minute lunch break, let's sprint down to the bar down the street, chug 2 beers, get back to work just to get through the day. It was like that was my reality. So like I was living it, so I knew I had an issue. It just took a while to, I think I was in denial for a long time, and then once I finally knew I had a problem, it was like, can I really quit though? I can't imagine like never drinking again. You know what I mean? It was like tough. And then finally I think I had this kind of light switch moment towards the end, because like you said, COVID, like the beginning of the pandemic, it was the best and worst time to get sober. So it was like April 18th is my sober day. So I was like working a lot from home, had like the desk set up, was drinking all day every day. It's like if I don't have a Zoom meeting today, if I don't have to be on camera, if I don't have like whatever obligation, I'm going to be drinking vodka cranberries like from behind the computer monitor all day. And it was like dark towards the end, and I thankfully had finally hit that last rock bottom, and like got that gift of desperation that people talk about, where it was just like, I have an issue and I want to do something about it. And I still remember like being on the clock, like clocking off for the day from home, calling up the rehab place, saying like I have a problem, like crying and stuff. I remember reached out to a friend of mine that's in the program, hopped on with him like on some AA meetings like over Zoom, because during the pandemic it was all Zoom, and crying on the meetings like with my camera off and myself muted, like just listening to shares and like relating to like people that were alcoholics and addicts and had issues, and like saying how it changed their lives. And I'm like crying like while drinking on the meeting, and like saying thinking to myself, I have such a problem. But then the next week I was sitting in rehab, and I just decided to do it, and do it all the way.
I can remember at one point, because so another thing is, so I was the opener of the deal where we lived, or worked rather. I was the opener. Sean was the night shift closer. And yes, so I can remember, and it's just until like you get older. I think maybe exposed to more like the realization about how much like alcohol it's it can change people. Like you when you're young, it's like let's go party, and like looking back on like how my mindset back then, I can remember opening after one night when you closed. I can remember opening the trash and seeing Corona bottles, like quite a few.
Yeah.
And I can remember thinking in my head, like this, and I think about this and I'm like, I kind of feel a sense of guilt. I don't know if that's the right word, but I was like, I can remember thinking like, oh, like Sean had fun last night. Ha ha ha. Like I didn't know. Like nobody would that was just such an ignorant mindset to have. Like not to be honest, when I saw the bottles, I was like, maybe he had friends. Like I was like, I didn't know.
Yeah. And
It's just so crazy. And then I'm pretty sure I think like a week or two after you told me, and I remember thinking in my head like, oh my god, like I never knew this, and I was like I felt not to make it about me, but I was obviously worried because it was so new to me. Like, how did you explain it to like family members and friends?
no, it was probably if I had gotten sober earlier, if I had gotten like intervened on or like because there were little breadcrumbs along the way. Like people made little comments, like you said. I don't think you should feel guilty about that because it's like I'm an adult. I have control over my own actions, and it's like you're not the only person that like found bottles, like empty bottles and shit, and like made little comments and like just like I said, little breadcrumbs over the years. I remember my ex's parents at one point and like her sister-in-law like made like you're really gonna have another one and just like little things like that but then you kind of scale back to adjust for comments like that and then it's like oh no he's okay like just putting on a good face um when it finally came time to tell my parents tell like really close friends of mine I think that gift of desperation was so high, and it was just like, I'm done. Like, I want to be a sober person. I want to be a better person. And I want to like work the 12 steps. And like, by doing this, I'm going to have a much better life. Um, so it was more just like at that point when I started telling people, I was like proud. There was still a little bit of shame because it was like early sobriety. Like it was still very new, but the reaction was overwhelmingly positive from people.
So you enter the program. Was your notions before you entered recovery? Was it different or what you thought going in?
Um,
Because I feel like everybody, you get as you see it on TV, like, you know what I mean? I think I wouldn't know. Was it different than what you thought? Like, and kind of explain to me, like, if I'm new and going to recovery, like, what should one expect?
yeah, I mean, I think it starts with the big thing I'll say is everyone has a different story and everyone has like a different rock bottom. Like I remember watching a great interview of who was it? The guy that does like Armchair Expert, the actor. He's with like Kristen Bell, Dax Shepard. So he has been kind of in and out of recovery and he's had a story history with it, but I find him to be really inspiring and a great speaker, a great storyteller. He went on some interview where he was talking about that exact notion, like that your rock bottom may not be what makes you quit. Like what makes you quit could just be you've had enough, but the actual situation isn't even the worst thing that happened to you during all of it. Like he chronicled this weekend where he got a bunch of booze. He like got pills. He got like this. He got that. Different drugs. Like went to different dealers. Like he had a shitload of stuff where he was just like, it's Friday night. Like I'm gonna be set for the weekend. And then he woke up and it was like Monday morning. Like he had lost several days. And he was like, "Wow, I'm lucky to be alive." And he was like crying on the phone with his mom. And he was in the interview. He was like, "You would think that would be it. You would think that that's the moment where like you go into rehab and like take a really close look," but he was like, no, it was another year of drinking and doing drugs after that near death experience of like that should have been the end. But then what made him actually stop was something much less than that. But he was just ready. I find that really powerful. And that was my experience as well.
That's so I would have never have thought it would be anything like that. So you enter the program in COVID, so it's all remote. And that has to be difficult in itself because you're stuck home. And everybody is in a state of panic, I'm sure, too. You're
Yeah.
stressed not only about recovery, about getting sick, because it's just crazy time. Like, what would you say that impacted your recovery at all?
So the interesting part of that time was actually it was in person, just everyone had to wear a
Oh,
mask. and like you
Okay.
kind of kept your distance in the group rooms and stuff. So thankfully, I was able to get that like human like one-on-one like or and with the group like talking shit out. You just had a mask on and you were like kind of sitting further apart, but I still got a great experience. Like you know, that the place I went to like changed my life, and like I loved rehab. Like it was one of those things. It was the exact opposite of like this is going to be like a drag, or it was like I looked forward to it, like the different classes and learning about recovery and addiction, and like I really liked it. And the only thing I can say is that I wanted it. Like I was just ready because I was still working my full-time job while doing that. I worked it out with my boss, and like I was at rehab in group sessions 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. every day, and then I worked every night 2 to 10. I made that my dedicated shift while I was in rehab for like 2.5 months. And it's like you gotta want it if you're gonna do that shit. Like I was just ready. Yeah, yeah. Well, so the interesting thing is, like I heavily subscribe to like AA and 12 steps, but it's like it's an interesting thing where it's like it's about what's the phrase? Attraction rather than promotion. So I want to be careful not to be like AA. It's just like I will say it works for me, and I think that it has like because the book was written in like the 30s, the like Alcoholics Anonymous, the actual book that has like the 12 steps laid out. Um, I will say if anyone thinks that they have a problem with drugs or alcohol or like know someone who does, it's changed my life. Like go, you know, I do like probably 3 AA meetings a week. I love the meetings. I love the fellowship, the camaraderie. Like most of my friends are sober friends now, and that wasn't intentional. It just kind of happened. And like, yeah, I'll say the 12 steps and AA and just recovery in general has made my life so much better. It's changed my life, you know. But in terms of like no disrespect to you, I just don't want to like delve too
Oh, yeah, no.
like the first step is that, and then like AA people are like, hey, dude, all right.
No. So when did you, so for a moment in the beginning, you felt like you were kind of drowning, maybe, if I've, and correct me if that's not the right word. When did you start to feel like you were coming above water? When did you get like a little bit like you're coming up for a little bit air, you're still struggling to swim, it's still like, you're trying to work on it, but you can, it's a sense of relief and you feel progress happening.
I'd say probably around 4 months. I think that was like where like 4 months sober. That was like when I started getting like less emotional and up and down. They call it like the pink cloud of sobriety. Like when you first get sober, I remember coming into treatment, like this is the case for a lot of people. It's just like fuck yeah, I should have gotten sober a long time ago. This is great, whatever. And then inevitably, you're gonna have a dip where you're just like, oh shit, like I have to deal with life sober and like just take things in stride and like be a mature adult. Like I don't like this. I my coping mechanism for most of my adult life has been drinking. Like happy, sad, celebrating, funeral, da 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 da. Like it was my solution to everything. So if you strip that away, it's like, oh, I have to just be a person and like work through my emotions and like start going to therapy and start doing things for my mental health and self-care. Like it's a lot. And like I'm saying, like the up and down of like that pink cloud of sobriety, it continues to happen. Like I was in a pink cloud recently, and then like it kind of like dissipated, and just knowing like this too shall pass, the good shit and the bad shit, those peaks and valleys, like it's gonna go up and down, but it's a much better life for me. Like because I knew in my heart that I was an alcoholic and an addict. So, but I will say, 4 months was when I really started actually feeling like I could do it. Because I think up until then, I would get those moments where, like, I remember I hit 3 months and I just started like crying out of nowhere, and like I was like at the center that day, was like overhearing that like one other person like just hit their 4 months, and I was just like so emotional about everything. And I remember like it wasn't even one of the workers, it was another one of the clients pulled me outside, and he was just like, hey, what's going on, man? Because like I just like broke down crying out of nowhere, like seemingly. And he was like, what's wrong, dude? And I was like, I don't know. Like, it's just
You
a
just
lot.
feel.
Yeah, it's just a
It is
lot
a
of
lot.
shit. Yeah.
Would you say that like going through like so you start the program, a lot of people don't know, and you actually taught me this. I remember you telling me that like it's people always think, oh, like there's only withdraw. Like this is my ignorance too. With when you do like hardcore, not that alcohol is not hardcore drugs. A lot of people think you could just quit drinking cold turkey and be okay. I never knew that was a thing. You taught me that. Can you talk a little bit about like what like you experienced with that because it's dangerous too. I never knew that.
Yeah, that was like one of the first things I was taught when I went into rehab. Like, I mean, the first thing they told me was that I was irresponsible and I should have gone to detox because towards the end I was having, like I said, I went to the hospital a couple times for alcohol poisoning during my time drinking. I experienced like full on withdrawal where I would try to, like you say, stop cold turkey or just like I was doing like self tapers at home towards the end where it would be like, all right, I had 8 beers last night. Tonight I'll have seven, then six, five, four, three, two, one to like not have withdrawal symptoms and like the shakes and delirium tremens where like you start like seeing shit and like it gets dark. And like that's my big thing is like alcohol is a drug if you're an alcoholic and an addict and you have that in your brain. I think there's the like family component to it because my mom's dad, my grandfather on that side, was an alcoholic. So it does run in the family, and people say it skips a generation. Like my mom's not an addict. She has no issues with that stuff. But like she had to deal with her dad being an alcoholic her whole life. And then her son's like checking into rehab. So I was like, I'm a loser. I'm a fuck up. Like, da 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 da. Like you start beating yourself up. But it's like that's a component. But then it's also you make your choices in life. I think it's a combination of the two. But yeah, I don't know. What was the original question?
So like alcohol withdrawal when you I didn't know you taught me. It's hardcore stuff. Like you said at points you thought you were gonna die. Like
Yeah, now I remember what I was gonna
that's a
say.
scary
Yeah,
thing.
I remember the place we used to work at, that TV station. It got so bad with the withdrawal towards the end that like I remember being in the parking garage, like about to clock into work, and like calling up a rehab place or a detox place. I didn't know how any of this stuff worked, and I was just like, I think I have a problem. I think I need to go into detox, and then like they like kind of responded later on. Then I was like, no, I actually I think I'm good. Like false alarm, like haha, like you know what I mean? Like, but then when I actually went into treatment, they were like, you should have gone to detox, like because the tapers at home, literally, when you talk about the hard drugs and stuff. The two things you're most likely to like die from withdrawal from, this is what I learned from the people there at rehab, is alcohol and benzos. I didn't know that.
I didn't know that. And that's a dangerous thing because I'm finding it, it's especially, and I'm no expert, but the culture around drinking now, like where it's excessive, it's social, and then people, I'm seeing an a new thing now. It's like people are doing like dry January,
Mhm.
dry like sober October. And if like people are thinking, yeah, like I'll do it, and like they don't realize, and they go they cut full turkey. You have to, I think I and I'm not advising. I don't know what you would say, but I think people need to. Do you think? Did you ever think like checking in on yourself and like your relationship with alcohol, like would be a good thing, or do you think when you know type thing if you have a problem? Like when did you know it was like
I think it's the individual because like that's the most frustrating thing I think for like families and friends. If you're on the outside looking in and you see someone that's like really struggling and you think they need help, like you could intervene on them, but a lot of times that doesn't work. Like people don't want to hear that. And then you push them away more. It's almost like it's fucked up, but you kind of have to like let them hit their bottom and crash and burn, and hopefully they make it through that and have some sort of gift of desperation, rock bottom, like light bulb moment that makes them, because I had to get to that point where I hit that final bottom and picked up the phone myself and checked into rehab. If my family or like friends and stuff had like stepped in and like, you need help, because I see it all the time. People come into treatment and like they're doing it for their wife, for their family first and foremost, but they're not done. Like they have another run in them. So it's like you're ready when you're ready, and that's like specific to the person. So
What do you think of, like, what's your, not want to say particularly you, but it could be your opinion too. What is your opinion of like dry January, like sober October? Like, what is your opinion on like things like that? Like,
see, my thing is like being in recovery and AA and stuff like that, I try my best not to be judgmental of non-addicts and alcoholics, because it's
yeah,
very easy to sit here and be like, alcohol, drugs and alcohol are the devil, and like you're smoking the devil's lettuce, and like da, 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 you know what I mean? Like, but it's like, if you don't have a problem, there's no issue with it. Like if you can just have one or two glasses of wine and go to bed and be like, that was nice, that was lovely, let's go to bed for the night. The problem is you need to know if you're an addict and alcoholic, if you have that brain, addict alcoholic brain. I can't, that's not in my vocabulary. Maybe it was in the beginning of my drinking, but towards the end, one or two beers, one or two glasses of wine, and then calling it a night. No, I need to have like 13 and then black out. Like, because I need to take it to the absolute limit. You know what I mean?
what like skill sets have you gained through this process? Is it like that have helped you? Like, is it routine? Is it organization? Like basic skills that maybe you didn't have before that you gained that have like been instrumental in your recovery?
Yeah, there's a lot. I mean, the 12 steps and like having a sponsor, sponsoring other people, like trying to help people in recovery as much as I can. Like you never know, like the smallest thing could help someone in their day. Like when I'm at like, because I work at a sober house for GBAC, Greater Boston Addiction Centers, and it's a great place, and they help a lot of fucking people. It's great. And like you see some of the clients come in, and sometimes just being at the house and just like telling like little stories of like, yeah, like this is where my drinking took me, and like here's how it's been in recovery. It's like those little things, like you never know how that could like help somebody's day and shit like that. It's really humbling. But I will say, like in addition to the recovery side, like writing my 4 step, you kind of write out everyone you've ever had a resentment towards, and then you realize your part in it, basically. And like then later on, you end up doing amends, like people that you owe an apology to, or you need to clean up your side of the street. So it's like all those things help you unpack like how you've been immature, how you could grow, how you could change and be a better person. And it's like exactly that, cleaning up your side of the street. Like that's helped me immensely. Like I feel like I'm a much more grounded, like better person, more mature. I was very immature during my drinking, like wildly immature. Like I had a lot of growing up to do. But then it's also, I think it's being a guy too. Never saw a therapist till I got sober. I was like, I don't go to therapy. Like the joke I always make is, I think Bill Burr, the comedian, had a thing about this where he was just like, no, I'm a man. I like push my shit down. Like I don't admit a puppy's cute, and I die of a heart attack at 55 because I'm a man and I eat steak and da da da. Like, and there is some truth to that, where it's like I was kind of averse to therapy until I got sober, and then so many people were telling me it would help me. So
Yeah,
yeah,
there's a stigma behind it, especially, it also just like the idea of like telling everybody probably everything, especially being, from my observations, I'm not a man, but that's hard for men to do. Um, and okay, that's a really interesting to hear. Like that's a really opening my eyes to it.
yeah. I would recommend anyone to do therapy. Like even if you're not an addict or alcoholic or in recovery, I think like now I can't imagine not having a therapist. Like I see my therapist every 2 weeks over Zoom, and I started that once I started getting sober. Like one of the heads of the rehab was like, I know this guy that's a therapist, and he has a lot of experience working in the treatment, addiction recovery treatment field. So he has that knowledge. So it's like not only is he a licensed therapist, but he knows like what the fuck I'm talking about with addiction and recovery. So he has that specialization, and it's been nothing but good. Like because you're unpacking shit. You're unpacking shit from your childhood. You're unpacking shit from like recent time. Like sometimes you just need to go on a therapy session and just vent. Like here's what the fuck's going on in my life right now. I just need to vent about it.
Yeah. I guess what people don't realize, like maneuvering through, and from my assumption of just listening to you, like therapy is not only therapy, recovery is every single day, and life still's going on. So like you meet new challenges every day. Has like how has that been for you in your learning process? And these past 2 years, like life continues on. Your family, everything. Like, what was that adjustment like to prioritizing like your sense? I guess you can call it like self care
Yeah.
and family and friends.
Well, it's like you're saying, I think there is a stigma towards like mental health and self-care. That's something I really enjoy about your podcast, like with the interview you did with your sister, having Matt on, like it was like really vulnerable. And the good thing is now, like in our society, it's kind of like become trendy almost to like be very vulnerable and like here's all my shit and like all about self-care and mental health. I think that's a step in the right direction. Obviously, some people take it too far and it's like you didn't have to like tell me your whole life story on social media, but like I'm guilty of that too, but whatever. Um but like I think it is a step in the right direction, like towards getting rid of that stigma. And I've found, yeah, like self-care, mental health, like it all kind of connects. Like and then with recovery, it's like and therapy, I'll also say prayer and meditation. Once I got sober, that helped me like get in touch with, they call it like a higher power of your understanding. It doesn't have to be a Catholic God. It doesn't have to be like whatever, like an invisible man in the sky with sandals. Like for me, it's a little more abstract. Like I was raised Catholic and I went to church every Sunday, but I was agnostic most of my 20s until I got sober. So when I went to the rooms, they were like, pick a higher power of your understanding. It doesn't matter what it is, just run with it. You need something greater than yourself to guide you through this time basically. So what I did was like it's pretty abstract. It's just like I have this feeling in my heart that there's something greater than me at play. I couldn't put my finger on what it is. I just feel that it's there and I'm going to choose to believe it because it's going to make me a better person. Um and then like with the meditation, like I love meditating. When I first got into rehab, they would like try to get you to do certain meditations in the groups. You're like closing your eyes. People are coming in and out of the door every 2 seconds to pull different people. And you're just like, you got your eyes closed and you're like, same thing with like being a guy. You're like, this is so fucking corny. Like, when is this over? This is so stupid. Like, you're like laughing at it. Like, you're like catching your friend's eye in the corner, like in the rehab group, like, and you're like trying not to laugh. And it's like, but fast forward now, you kind of just keep doing it. And then eventually you see the benefits of it. Like, meditation helps me so much. Like, when I first wake up, it's the first thing I do. I used to, during my drinking, just start scrolling through Facebook and Instagram and like start filling my head with meaningless bullshit and negativity and the news. Like, if you're doing that the first thing when you wake up, of course you're going to be in a bad fucking mood. Whereas like now I stop myself if I like want to reach for Instagram right when I wake up. It's like I'll throw on a meditation, I'll pray a little bit, I'll like read the I have like the AA daily reflection. They have one for every like date. So like for like you open it up January 11th, like let's see what it has for today. And it's like that's become like when you talk about routines, like that's part of my routine. Like I do that meditation and prayer and reading the daily reflection every day. And then if someone cuts me off in traffic later that day, I'm not like following them to the next exit. Like I'm able to take things in stride and be like, ah, maybe they're having a bad day. Like kind of,
Yeah.
like it
You're
just,
like more centered within yourself
yeah,
starting the day.
yeah. It sets you up for success.
So again, I mentioned this in the beginning, like when you first started your treatment and you were, we were both working in the television job, you told me, I can actually picture where we were standing in our cubicles. You said, Lindsay, I'm in recovery. I'm doing this. I don't want to work here anymore. It's, not what I'm picturing. I want to, work in the recovery center and do music full time. And that's my goal. And I don't know how I'm going to do it. I want to do it. And I was like, okay, Sean, like, yeah, go Sean. Like,
Yeah.
and it didn't happen right away because I remember, the position was at that location maybe wasn't available at that time, but you were like, I'm going to do anything in my power to get this going. And you did. Like, can you explain a little bit more about like that process of like job, your music, where everything that is that, today? Because like one thing about Sean's music is his passion. It's like who Sean, who you are. It's like music, passion, creativity.
Yeah.
So
I, yeah, well, thank you. And it's like, because we were talking about this earlier, like before we hopped on air, like about manifestation and like, I'm not like too deep, like in the woods on like that idea of manifestation, but I do like the idea of it on a surface level, like writing down, like having an intention, having a goal, having short and long-term goals. And I think like what you put out into the world, like positive and negative, like that shit, you got to be careful. Like, a lot of people put negativity out into the world and then that's what they get back. And like during my drinking, I talk about this all the time. Like I used to like be constantly throwing pity parties for myself. I was always feeling bad for myself. Life is happening to me was my mentality. Like, of course this happened, like, because it's me. And then you would drink over it. And then it like is this endless like vicious cycle because like then you're drinking over it, but then your drinking is making the situation worse. So it's like then you wonder why you're staying stagnant. So with like the manifestation, like in terms of the opposite of that, of like putting negativity out into the world, I wanted to put out something positive because I told you and several other people, like, this is my intention. Like once I hit a year sober, the dust settled and I was like, I really would like to get out of this industry. Um, I just don't want to be in this environment anymore. My heart is calling me to work in addiction recovery in some capacity. And then also my passion is music other than that. And that's a gift of sobriety, making music and expressing myself creatively. So that's what I'd like to do. And I'd like to, in the next year, I'd love to be there. And I think it was probably about a year later that like it all kind of came together. I didn't really have a plan either. Like I wasn't really smart. Like I put in a 5-week notice with nothing lined up at that old job. And I just believed in my heart that I could make this happen. And then things just kind of happen. But like you're saying, now I have the tools to get through shit. Cause it's like life gets lifey. That's not my phrase, but I've like heard people say it, like life gets lifey. And the difference is now I have the tools. Like during my drinking, I would throw those pity parties and just drink over it and just be like a dumpster fire of a human being. Whereas now it's like shit has happened in my sobriety that's like really been difficult, but I'm able to navigate through it. I have the tools now. Like right before I started working at the recovery center I've been working there since August of 2021, GBAC. I love it there. Good people. Literally the day before we lost our family dog, Molly. She just like out of nowhere, like we lost her. And then like that next day I had to go into my first day at work. And it's like because of my sobriety and the 12 steps and like everything I do to set myself up for success, because I have those tools, I can deal with something like that. Like something else that was really challenging was I lost a friend of mine, Fike. He overdosed in November of 2021. And like that was tough. Like it's tough to deal with shit like that but I can deal with shit like that because I'm sober and because I'm doing the right things. And I can keep going like for them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's a beautiful thing.
It's like it all connects. Is I've We're not picking up from what you're saying. Like you can set yourself up for success by like putting positive vibes out there, but also like acting, doing the things. So like, one positive, I take the step, only positive things can come back to me rather than feeling sorry for myself. How can I, go forward in this situation? I think that's powerful. And you know what? I'm like proud to say, like, you did that. I'm like, wow, I'm proud of you, Sean.
You.
And and, it's difficult seeing people, go through those things. And like, nobody knows what to do, or what to say. Have you found that? Like, nobody knew what to say to you?
Yeah. Yeah, it's like almost like the life equivalent of like slowly patting you on the back and being like, sorry, I don't know. I don't know. Like that it did seem like that was kind of the reaction from a lot of people. Obviously my parents kind of my mom especially gets it more because her father was an alcoholic, so she knows what that is. But other people, like I said, there were some like friends that were kind of drinking buddies. A good friend of mine, and she was just like, "Well, you don't have a problem. Like this person does this, and like you're not as bad as him, and like da da da." But then she ended up coming around. Not everybody comes around, but she ended up coming around, and like she really understands it and respects it now, and like that's a true friend, you know? Yeah, not on purpose, not on purpose, because if like you make the decision to get sober, um, you're gonna find out a lot of your so-called friends were just drinking buddies, and that's all you were to them. And it's an unfortunate reality, but it's also nothing personal. I've found because it's like that's a lot of what adult relationships are. It's like you're just kind of bonding over, and there's also like a special kind of like bonding that I found like in the corporate world, like in the working world, where it's like who can one up each other by being more negative and like this sucks and life is garbage and this is garbage and like ha 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 like everything is trash. Let's keep drinking and let's keep like it's like the one upping, and it's like that's not the place I'm in now. I'm not hanging out at bars like trying to one up people with negativity, but I used to be like that during my drinking. So
It's crazy. You would think, and I feel like that's like kind of like toxic corporate culture. You can fall one of two ways. And and for the people listening that are younger, I know I have a good friend who's just kind of entering the work world. And my biggest piece of advice to her was just don't fall into like, it's so easy. It's so easy to sit around and bitch and like be negative. But you're going to get more just being either the positive one or just like keeping to yourself. Like,
yeah,
and I seeing you go through this process and like both of us, I think, moving in separate ways from like we started here and now we went apart. That's definitely something I noticed too about adult relationships for sure.
yeah, oh yeah, definitely. And it's also like going back to the drinking culture thing, there's a lot of like different industries that kind of like encourage that, and it's kind of socially accepted. I mean, drinking in itself is socially accepted because like I had to get it to a certain point in my recovery that like I work such a strong program that things don't trigger me or affect me. Like I can see like a billboard for Bud Light driving on the highway, or I can watch like an NFL football game and not be bothered that it's alcohol ads every 2 seconds. Like you kind of have to like be able to cope with that and like move through the world at like without getting like triggered and stuff like that, because it's like with hard drugs that comes with a whole other set of problems. I've met people like great people that were addicted to hard drugs, and it's like people don't understand and they think like you're just like messed up and like too out there. Like at least alcohol is like social, like socially accepted. That's why I did it. That's why like I was too much of a chicken, I think, or too much of a wimp in my mind to like try hard drugs because I was like too afraid of it, too afraid of the stigma, too afraid of what might happen if I overdose or something. So it's like let's take alcohol, which is like a legal drug and like socially accepted like out the fucking ass and just take that to the absolute limit. So that was kind of like how I approached it. So
That's no, I agree with you there. Like, I can't imagine. So, going through your recovery, you mentioned triggers. What were you, if you don't mind me asking, what were your triggers? Like, obviously, the obvious, but like, that was there stuff that triggered you that you didn't think would trigger you? And like, how did you overcome that
yeah,
obstacle, I should say?
absolutely. Like in early recovery, it was one of two things. Like it's extremes. Like it's either intense stress or like feeling overwhelmed, or it's you have too much time on your hands and you're bored and you're just like I could fucking use a drink right now. Like that was my experience in early recovery, and I've talked to many people in these rooms of recovery, and they say the same thing where it's like you got to have like balance is so key. If you have a balance in your life where it's like you have goals, you have purpose, you have intention, like you have things you're working towards, but you're not absolutely like killing yourself and burning the candle at both ends. Like if you can find that balance, it's easier said than done, but like that's been the key to like staying sober, I think, is like I strike that balance where it's like I work hard, I'm proud of what I do. I'm proud that I help people in recovery. I've worked very hard with my music. Like I've been putting out lately in terms of my music, I've been putting out a new single every single month since September. Like so I'm on
I've noticed
so I'm
that.
like on my
Yeah.
I'm on my grind with that shit, but it's also if I start to recognize that I'm like burning the candle at both ends or going too crazy with it, sometimes you gotta like listen to your body and like scale back. And it's like if I go too hard, that's gonna make me want to drink. If I'm sitting around with Cheeto dust on my fingers watching Netflix all day, I'm gonna want to drink. Let's find a happy medium. You know what I mean? So
That's crazy. And so how did you have to like tell family members triggers too? Like was that like a boundary for a little bit? Like, hey, this triggers me now. I'm working through it. Until then, like was communicating boundaries a big thing in recovery?
a little bit. I think it was everyone kind of like got on board right away, like family and friends. I remember when I first got into rehab, funny enough, I mean it's not funny, it's kind of fucked up, but it's like funny in a fucked up way, like in a dark way. When I first got into rehab, we still had a bottle of Tito's in vodka in the apartment. I remember I was like 2 days into treatment because I was doing IOP from home. Like I wasn't actually like in sober living, so I was living at home, but excuse me, going to rehab every day. So I remember 2 days in, plugging up my nose and like dumping a whole bottle of Tito's like vodka down the drain because I was like, for now, I cannot have alcohol in the house. It's way too early. I remember we went on a family vacation that summer, my first year of sobriety. We went to the Cape with my parents and my brother. Got like a little Airbnb, and I was like, when we're out at dinner, obviously, like they were just kind of, I didn't even ask them. They just kind of didn't order alcohol, like, so it wouldn't be like right in front of me so early in sobriety. So it wasn't really like I communicated a trigger. They just kind of adjusted and were just being extra respectful of me. Like, and even there were certain situations, like maybe 4 months down the line, 5 months sober. Like, my brother would be like, we'd be at a restaurant and be like, would it be all right if I ordered a beer with dinner right now? Like, that won't bother you? And I'm like, yeah, I'm good. Like, and it's like I knew that I was good in that moment. So I don't know. Yeah, I tried to communicate wherever I could, but it seemed like my friends and family were just very respectful, like off rip, which is good. So I'm grateful for that. Yeah.
And so just mentioning your relationship with your brother. You're the oldest, if I remember correctly, right? So how is like your relationship with your brother? Like, has it? gotten stronger with like this recovery process, with your journey? How, like, what's, because we all, not everybody, but most people have siblings, and like you are gonna go through a much bigger part of life together than say like parents. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's, you grew up together. Um, there's a relationship there. Like, how did that adjust with your journey?
I think it's just gotten better over time because, like, I recently celebrated 2.5 years sober, and it's like I was able to spend New Year's Eve with my parents and my like my brother and stuff like that. And it's like I've gotten so much closer to all three of them as the result of my sobriety and just like becoming a better person and like being present. Because like I would go to family functions and I would like go out with friends and like I just kind of wasn't all the way there. I wasn't present because I was always fucked up. Like I was always drunk. So it's like you're there but you're not really there. Like you can't be present when you're in that state. So it's like now I'm fully present and it's like I have some of the best times. Like recently, like when I went over to my parents for New Year's, like we were, oh my God, like my dad is kind of savage. Like he's just like really funny, like has a really good sense of humor. So we just like my dad and my brother, we just like rip on each other. Like that's how we show like love and affection, just like shitting on one another. So it's like we're like watching Ryan Seacrest and like all like the New Year's stuff and just like making fun of everyone on TV. Like when Luke Bryan went on, like my dad and I were just like laughing about like how fat he's gotten. And it's like, oh, he's gonna do a mic flip again. No, not another mic flip. Come on, man. Like, and just like making fun of like those are the moments in sobriety that like I'm just so happy to like be here, because like those moments where towards the end of my addiction where I thought I was going to die in my sleep, like that's not guaranteed that I was still going to be here. So it's like those little moments like that where we could just like shit on things and just laugh at the dumbest shit. To me, like that's one of the gifts of sobriety. Like, cause I think some people might think recovery has to be boring or it has to be like, I mean, it is regimented in certain ways. They're like you got to do what you got to do and you got to have routines and like there is structure there. But it's like also I didn't get sober to live a boring life. I like laughing at dumb shit, you know. So
You can still have a fun, spontaneous, adventurous life of writing. I think that's one thing I've learned through you, through research, and through knowing other people. If you could go back, like you, present day,
mhm.
go back to the Sean first stepping into recovery and give him any bit of advice, any words of wisdom, do you know what you would say?
I already have the answer. I would tell myself, shut the fuck up and listen. Because when I stepped into like the rooms of rehab, you meet a lot of people that like their attitude is like arms folded, like I don't think I have an issue. Prove me wrong. Whereas like I had such a gift of desperation that it was just like my ideas aren't working and like I'm going to die if I keep drinking. Tell me what to do. So it's like I think that's the attitude to have. I would tell myself to like stop talking so much and listen. So I listened to people's like recovery stories, like just hearing different people's perspectives, and it's like we're alike but different because we all have different backgrounds, we all have different drugs of choice, and it's like, but there's something that connects us because it's like whether you're doing hard drugs or some people even like struggle. People laugh, but like with weed, you can have a problem with that if you take that to the absolute limit. Like one of my favorite comedians, Bobby Lee, he has a podcast, Tiger Belly, which I like quite a bit, and he talks about his recent relapse that he had. It was actually like on pot, but his like ex-girlfriend was his girlfriend at the time was saying like she was saying he was smoking weed like a hardcore like coke addict, like shit in the chimney. And like if we have that addict alcoholic mindset, we can literally get addicted to anything. So you got to be very careful. Um, So that was my big thing. Like just they say in the rooms, like take, what is it? Take the cotton swabs out of your ears and put them in your mouth. Something to that effect. Like I love that. Like just being able to like, I don't have all the answers. I don't need to have all the answers. Like let me shut up and listen. Maybe I'll learn something, you know?
That's beautiful. I am blown away by like this whole like journey you've been through. Um, I know you came out with original songs. You said five, I believe, just this past year.
Yeah, well, so I've been putting out since September. I've been putting out one a month, one single, like original song. So the funny thing about that too is like sobriety made my music better too, and made me more.
I was gonna ask, that was the question. I was like, did it impact your music? Does any of your songs, and I would love to play one closing out this episode, um, talk about this journey for you?
A little bit, I would say, because prior to getting sober, I've always been just like a creative person, like gravitated towards making art, whether it was like acting out TV shows and movies growing up, or like I wanted to like go to film school when I was like 16 years old. I saw the Dark Knight and Clerks that year and was like, I want to go to film school. I'm 16. Like I started making Star Wars fan films and like entering into film festivals. Like I've always been very I don't even know what the word is, like just kind of like passionate about art. And like I did stand up comedy for 5 years in college, and then kind of that passion pivoted to music. But even when I was making music during my 20s, like while I was drinking, it was very inconsistent. Like I would put out maybe one original song, then a few years would go by and like I'd like a cover here and there, but it was like so wildly inconsistent because drinking was my number one priority. And then what I found was, I think I might have told you about this at the time, but like I was recording a song called Further From God, an original song, right before I checked myself into rehab. I actually recorded all of the vocals like drunk, fucked up. And then when I checked into rehab and like got out, like I was in rehab for about 2.5 months. When I got out, I re-recorded all of the vocals sober and then released that as my first single original song as a solo artist, and that kind of kick-started me being a solo artist. So since then, I've in 2022 I came out with 10 original songs that are singles. I for years I wanted to make an album, and friends would be like, you should like put out an album where you do some covers, some originals. I'd buy that on like Apple Music or Spotify. And I was like, yeah, yeah, yeah. And then I would never do it because drinking was my number one priority, my addiction. So in 2022, I put out all those songs. I put out my first EP, which was called Higher Highs, Lower Lows. I put out my first full length album, Emo Pop. I have another EP coming out like in a month. I've been doing all these singles. So it's like, not only am I more proud of my music, but it's more consistent now that I'm sober. I have like, yeah, I have the presence of mind to like make shit I'm proud of and like keep up with it. So, yeah, it's a good thing. Excuse me. I think the big goal with, because we were talking before about like kind of the manifestation thing. I was like, at the time, I was like, a year from now, I'd love to be working in addiction recovery, and I'd love to be making music on the side and like seeing if I can monetize that in some way. I think down the line, not right now because I love working in treatment. Would love to somehow be doing music full time, and then just like any free time I have, helping people in recovery, sponsoring people, like just really keeping up with recovery because it's also my passion. Like the music and recovery are the two reasons I get out of bed in the morning these days. So I think if I had to like, this is where I'd like to be in 2 years, it would be making music full time. But it's like I have to like get to that place first. And I think along the way I've kind of set up little like building blocks of I could get there maybe one day because I've started actually writing lyrics for other people and singing on other people's songs where people will hire me, and like I've made a little bit of money that way. And the I don't know if I told you about this one, but some random guy like came across my profile. I'm on a site called Air Gigs where like you can be like, hey, I'm a singer, I'm a lyricist, I'm a producer. Hire me if you want. Here's some of my samples. He came across some of my samples. He hired me for like 4 different songs. Like one of them had a finalist from The Voice, Israel. One of them had a guy from the member of there's like this like almost like boy band from back in the day, Take Six. I think it was like back in the 90s. Back in the 90s, he was a member of that. So like they've been singing on it, and then I wrote the lyrics. So like some of the stuff he put out that he hired me for, they have like 50,000 plays on Spotify, 75,000 plays, and I'm like, I wrote those lyrics. So like that's a start. That's a jumping off point. Maybe I could start writing lyrics for other people and make that like a side hustle. So it's like I just got to keep going.
And you will. Sean, just wrapping up today's episode, I want to again thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
Is there anything else that you would like to say to anybody that might be struggling, to friends and family, for yourself before we wrap up today's recording?
Absolutely. Well, first of all, thank you. This has been awesome, like great discussion, and I'm just so happy I could do it. But in terms of like parting words, I'd say it's been a really difficult time the past couple of years. Like once COVID hit, I've seen studies of like even non-addicts and alcoholics, like the amount of binge drinking, like they have the studies, they have the numbers, like those numbers skyrocketed. Like people were like trapped at home, isolated, like binge drinking and shit like that, and like people's mental health declined. So I think the best thing you can do, addict or non-addict, start with yourself first. Like adjust your own oxygen mask before helping others. So like if you need to meditate in the morning, if you need to like see a therapist, if you need to do certain things for your mental health and self-care, like start with that shit. That's your foundation. And then everything that you build on top of that is what you build on top of that. Because what I used to do was make everything else the foundation, and then like maybe I'll get sober one day, and you're like building a fucking house on sand. So it's like if you can switch that around and like make the mental health and self-care and all that shit the foundation, that's a solid foundation. And then like there's nothing but potential of what you could build on top of that.
That's amazing. I'm blown away by those words, and they're honestly so true, especially today. You have to help yourself. Like nobody's coming to save you. Like to help yourself, and I'm so proud again of you. And I said it like 15 times in this. I'm so proud of you.
Thank you. And you as well. I mean, going
you know,
back to the manifestation thing, you could have just gone around being like, I have an idea. I'm going to make a podcast. I'm going to make a podcast. Like, hey guys, I'm going to make a podcast. And then you never do it, but you actually are doing it. Like there's action to back up the talking. And that's what I'm all about in sobriety. Like, so I'm proud of you as well for like doing this shit. And like, I think these are great conversations to have about mental health, about self-care, kind of me bringing the angle of addiction and recovery as well to that conversation. Like, so I really like am fucking with what you're doing. That's why I was so honored to come on here. So I just really am happy with what you're doing. And I'm proud of you as well.
Oh, thank you, Sean. And this is what life's all about. Like life, like what you said earlier, when life gets lifey, like, and nobody talks about it. And it just like blows my mind that so much is happening to everybody around us. For perfect example, like when you were going through your journey, and again, I was oblivious, and so many people were oblivious. Like life happens to everybody in various different ways, and to me, it always just astonishes me that people go through these like tough times in their life. They either get over it or they're working their way through it, and nobody opens up and just expresses, hey, this is what I'm going through. and it could help so many people. I'm sure that there's going to be somebody that's listening to this podcast, Sean, and struggling, or, you know, they don't know anybody. I didn't know anybody that was going through recovery before, you told me, the least that I knew. And if I hope anybody listening, if they're struggling or if they know anybody struggling, I hope they found this podcast insightful, and, get encouragement in any way that they can. I think good things will come from this. And I think
That's my hope as well, because I remember one quick thing that I'll leave with. When I was about to check into rehab, I remember seeing on YouTube, I don't know if you're familiar with the rapper slash pop punker Mod Sun. I like him quite a bit. He's good. He's like made some stuff with Machine Gun Kelly and Avril Lavigne, and like he's a really good and versatile artist. So he's in recovery, and he made a YouTube video where like he went to it's called the world famous Jim Morrison room. It's a hotel room in LA, I think. And it's like it's covered with murals and dedications and things written on the wall to Jim Morrison. He was like, he hit record. He was in that hotel room, and he was like, I used to rent out this hotel room and like get fucked up. Now I'm here in sobriety telling my story. So he told his story, and like it was like a lot of the war stories, and like his struggles with every drug under the sun and alcohol, and like how it affected his life. But then he also spoke about how he's trying to like flip the script and like have a better life in recovery. And something about just the way he laid it all out and how vulnerable it was, he got really emotional during it. He was like very real. Like I felt like I needed to see that video. And like that, seeing that on YouTube was one of the things that like was the final push that got me to pick up the phone and check into rehab. So like my hope is like, if there was like maybe one thing I said during this podcast that like resonated with someone and like helped them in some way, then it was like worth doing this shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I agree. Again, I want to thank you for coming on, Sean. Always a pleasure to talk to you. I am so thankful that we met in life, and, that we're friends and we're able to learn and grow together in this thing called life. I deeply appreciate you coming on.
I'm glad we're friends, and thank you so much, Lindsey, once again for doing this.